All right. Well, good morning. I know I still have 20 some minutes to say good morning. I'm Keith Hamasaki. I also have my colleague here, Adam Lynch. Adam, you got to say something. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to be able to see you on the,
Oh, I
on the
see.
screen.
Hey guys, I'm Adam Lynch.
So we're going to be presenting to you virtual networking. So we're going to, do some tips and tricks for you. Here is. So we decided to do a little more informal kind of way to do it. That's our contact information here. All right. So Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about the firm?
Yeah, so Krost CPAs has been around for forever, like every accounting firm. Very exciting accounting firm, but it's really exciting in the last probably 5 to 7 years. It's been really exciting growth that we've seen, and frankly, it's just exploding. And it's really fun to be a part of a program that's growing this rapidly. And you can see all these all these exciting accomplishments we've had in the last couple of years. Top 200 firms, that's pretty consistent. We're one of the fastest growing private companies in LA, and I believe it was one of the fastest growing accounting firms for a couple years in a row. And I think from 2015, we've almost tripled our revenue. So it's just been an explosion of growth. So very exciting growth, very fun to be a part of. And that's what Krost is kind of going through at the moment.
Yeah. Adam, why don't you share about yourself before?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I am I've been in accounting for 5 years, maybe. I don't really know exactly. It kind of starts to blend together, but I started in audit in a similar size firm in Minneapolis and decided to come to sunny Southern California, as we can see today, with the beautiful sunshine poking through the smog. But I do like it here. I moved last summer and joined Krost and have had just really a great time here. So yeah, that's me.
Yep. Traveled across country. You drove to come to LA.
Yeah, I drove. I climbed a mountain or two. I went to a football game. Very excited for football being back. I don't know if you guys see Iowa State is on there. My alma mater is playing at the moment, and it kind of feels like we're getting back to normalcy. So I'm just happy. I'm happy to be here.
So, Adam, right. you could go on and tell them about the career opportunities available.
Yeah. So first things first, our externship. It is kind of a program we like to put together to kind of introduce you as the student to what a CPA firm can provide for you and what you can do for a CPA firm. Kind of help you figure out what the best path is for you, because nobody knows what they're going to do in their career. At least I sure didn't. And if you do know, I think I'm happy for you. But this is a good opportunity to kind of figure out what you can do, what best fits for you. So is it going to be audit? Is it going to be tax? Are you going to be in consulting? Are you not going to be in the CPA firm? We just really want to help you find the best opportunity for yourself. And this is a great way to kind of dip your feet in there and feel what it's all about. And as you can see, that second bullet point, as a participant in this, you will kind of go through what we do in the day-to-day life, first being a simulated audit or a tax return, and just kind of you'll learn more about really what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's pretty exciting. I would recommend it to anyone that has interest in that. And then for real, like career opportunities, we have a winter internship and a summer internship for various departments within the firm. And if you're interested in that, you can reach out to us, and we can help guide you through that process of getting you in contact with people. We have winter is a part-time, summer's a full-time. And as always, when you're growing like we are, we have full-time positions that are needed to be filled. So we have accounting, we have tax, we have audit and assurance, and then we have our our research and development, which is kind of a consulting firm to really help us grow our opportunities. So there's many opportunities within Krost and in the CPA field. So we're just trying to help you figure out what's best for you.
All right. Should I be admitting people? Because I think I have control over this.
Oh.
I can just do it. I'll
Okay.
worry about that.
I'll just, I see it pop up and I just wanted to make sure. All right. So little kind of, before I go into the agenda here, which I'll show you guys here, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. We kind of went through all the firm stuff, but for me, I've always been passionate about trying to help students find their career, right? So it's never really been about trying to find what Krost is. You should know what Krost is, but I think what's really important is to be able to find the right fit for you. So I've been doing a lot of campus recruiting. So even before Krost, I'm a transplant. I started my career at a national size firm. I'm a graduate from CSUN, so I know what the experience is like. And I went through the same classes and challenges. So going through class, working, and trying to find a career, network, recruiting, it's never easy. So I like to do these kinds of things because I really feel like we're able to help. And a little more about my professional career. I've been in the industry, I'm going to say over a decade, but it's getting closer to more than that. For me specifically, I'm a director at Krost. So we have the assurance and advisory. I oversee the day-to-day operations of that. And, Adam is one of the members on my team, which I'm very fortunate to have. And, so that's kind of a little bit about me. So I also welcome any of you guys to add me on LinkedIn or send me emails when you have questions. I'm more than happy to see where I can help you. So for our agenda, we're going to try to keep it short and sweet because I do want to have time for you guys to ask the questions because everyone's trailblazing through this new environment. And I think it's important to know what I've seen or what we've seen, but I think it's also important to know what you have seen. So we're going to start off with setting the scene, icebreakers, awkward networking, and consistency. So Adam, why don't you share with us some icebreakers?
Setting the scene, right?
Oh, right. I skipped, huh? There you go.
All right. So first thing to do, you're going to be doing virtual networking. You got to make sure everything is working. You got to make sure your camera's working. You got to make sure your microphones are working. You have to be able to hear people. And the only way you know it's working is testing it. Call a buddy, call a friend, have them spend 5 minutes to just go through and test that everything kind of makes sense and is working. And the other piece is if you've got to make sure your background is clean. I see a couple people have done really great jobs in this and making sure that their background is presentable, is professional. You don't want to have a dirty clothes bin in the background. You want it to be clean and clean cut. And you can also do the virtual background, which actually mine just started working for me today, and it looks pretty nifty.
Look at you.
I know. I had one about a week ago. I tried to do it, and my eyes looked all scary. So you do have to test it, because if you go in and the virtual background doesn't work, it does look really, really horrible. And this is your first impression, so it's important that you're not fumbling around, messing around with stuff that should be super, super easy at this point. Dress for success. This kind of just means look kind of clean. The whole shorts on the bottom, collared shirt on the top, for guys at least, it's really easy to do. It's one little thing you can do to make yourself kind of look like you want to be there, and this is you participating actively and getting involved. Even something to think about. Keith, you can go on. I think you had this point earlier this week.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned, if you have stripes or like the window panes, it looks weird on Zoom. So solid colors is going to be preferable.
Yeah, you want to make it clean and make sure that the person that's not looking at you is going cross-eyed because there's just too much going on the screen. And then the last thing is distractions. Like when you sit down for some sort of virtual networking, it's really, really important you don't have your buddy coming in the back. You don't have your mom asking you to do the dishes. You don't have your dishwasher running in the background or something. You want it to not, you don't want like background noise to be interfering with the person you're speaking to. We want to make sure it's enjoyable for everybody and they can focus on, you frankly want to focus on how you can better yourself. And this is one way to do that is to make sure that people involved can stay focused on what's happening. So that's how you set the scene.
All right. So icebreakers. This is a challenge, even in the in-person environment, is what are you going to be talking about when you are actually meeting with the professionals? I don't recommend asking the question audit or tax. I don't think that is as meaningful. I think what's more meaningful is to find out, ask questions or discuss something about what's important for you. Why do you care? What do you want to know? Now, most professionals will be the ones to start the conversation, and it could be as simple as, hi, how are you? And I recommend you still answer the question, how are you? I've seen people that I would say, hey, how are you doing? And they would say, I'm good, I'm looking for audit. And it's kind of like, no, you want to let the conversation play. So when you're talking about icebreakers, you want to think about 4 things, right? What is not on your resume that you want to bring up? What sets you apart? Why? Because everyone, I would say, has something special about them. So what is it about you that sets you apart? And we kind of want to know what you do beyond accounting. I'll give you a story. A really short example is that there was a 3-on-3 basketball tournament for CSUN, and we had a student that was on our team. And he apologized. The first thing he did to the team was he apologized for being, unable to perform, unable to play well. And I asked, why? Why is this? And he said, I was studying till 3 a.m. And I was like, why? And wasn't last night Friday? And he was like, yeah, but I have this test coming up in 2 weeks. And for me, it's like, that's great. You're trying to get ahead, but at the same time, it doesn't come across as being genuine, right? So being able to find out more about the person, the depth of the person, I think is very meaningful. And you kind of have to know yourself, right? So what are your qualities that about yourself that's important? So I'd say that having those in the background and looking for the opportunity to bring it up, because you don't want to have a canned answer. You want to have a response available for when something comes up. So when you have those moments when you can bring it up, you should, but don't force it, because you may not have the opportunity to bring it up in that session or in the Zoom, because I can tell you, I have seen how short these sessions can be. 10 minutes flies by really quickly. So don't fret if you are unable to get what you wanted to say across, because if you're doing everything correctly, you will have an opportunity to be able to bring it up later. All right, so I'm going to send it over to Adam, who's going to talk about awkward networking.
And this is awkward networking specific to the virtual networking piece, because if we wanted to get into awkward networking, you'd have to have like an hour session, because networking is just awkward. And the biggest thing you got to get ready for is you got to get over it. There's going to be strange moments. Somebody's microphone's not going to work, and then you're going to have to wait a little bit. Or like last night, I was on a Zoom with my family, and I froze my face. I had a real dopey face on, and they're all laughing, and they were laughing at me and stuff. And if you're really going to take it personally, you just can't take it personally. You got to take it with some give and be ready for those awkward moments. There's going to be something where you look dumb or you look ridiculous. You just got to take it in stride. Everyone's dealing with it. So it's helpful to just brush it off and move forward. You've got to be able, networking between the networking, you got to build a relationship. And sometimes when you have an awkward moment like that, you can actually build a pretty good relationship. You got to think positive. You got to understand that they're also having troubles dealing with the same virtual encounters that are just a little bit different. Everyone's kind of feeling it out. And you do have to be able to take those with in stride. And something else is filling the silence. Everyone feels like you need to fill silence. As soon as you recognize you don't, these networking communications go a lot smoother. Even you noticed at the beginning here, Keith was waiting for everyone to join. Stuff like that happens all the time. And if you feel like you need to fill it, just take a step back, wait 3 seconds, and then see if you need to join it. Awkward encounters are going to happen. The silence is going to happen. You don't have to fill it. It's not your responsibility to try and fix that awkward encounter.
And
just, again, take it in stride. And Keith?
And I'll add that I think it's those awkward moments that show depth of the person, because you will actually see them as being a human versus them being this all-powerful professional. You know, I know that it can be a scary thought when you're talking to, you know, someone on the professional side, but knowing that these awkward moments of filling the silence and listening to what they talk about when it's awkward, I think it's when you actually get more depth of the person. That's when you find out about the hobbies that they're doing, you know, what they're doing with their free time. It's not scripted.
And I find the silence very awkward. So I do always have a cup of coffee or a cup of water so I can be doing something. So, I mean, like, you have to recognize that it's going to be awkward and kind of think about it. Think about what you'll do to not force yourself to talk the entire time.
So I think this part is going to be important for the virtual environment, is consistency. The virtual environment is so short. You don't see each other again and again. So an example that I'll give you is when we would have in-person events, meet the firms, I would tell students, come see me in the beginning because you need to get your nerves out, and I'm okay with that. Then go around, talk to other firms, and you can come back and we could debrief. You know, so you have 2 opportunities to be able to talk to a professional, and you have opportunities to talk to them multiple times, and you have opportunities to talk to more than one professional at a firm. But in the virtual environment, you're not going to have the same kind of consistency at one event. So instead of intensity of it, you have to consider consistency of it. So after an event like this, you want to be able to stay connected. You want to follow up. So whether it's getting the email addresses or, you know, adding them on LinkedIn and being engaged and, you know, reconnecting and talking to them again and again and again. Even sending emails out. You may send an email out now, right, after this, because, you know, you're taught, send an email out after you meet a professional. But what happens 2 months from now? You know, because in another environment, you would see them on campus and you could just stop by and say hello. But you can't do that now. So because you can't do that now, you have to find other ways to be able to be consistent and be top of mind for these professionals. And even if the email is as simple as, this is what I'm going through right now, you know, like the virtual environment has been, you know, fun or challenging or whatever word you just use to describe it. But you want to take an interest, be genuine about why you're following up. Like, what is it? Why are you trying to reach out to them? Is it to find out, you know, for me, I would be reaching out to find out, what's this environment like for you? I am genuinely interested to know, how has the virtual environment changed how you approached campus recruiting? I'm genuinely curious about that. And then for you, it may be, how has the virtual environment changed you as a professional working in the environment? Has it changed how you interacted with clients, with your team? So, I mean, these things are ways to be able to stay connected and are unique opportunities, because I don't know a lot of students that actually are doing that. And I would also say is that, you know, once you find a firm, you know, most people stop the networking, or I would say the recruiting. But I would say that for public accounting, it is more than recruiting. It is now networking. You are staying connected with your network. So it's, you know, good to stay in contact, in touch. And I would say that it is more work now as students in a virtual environment. It is less commute time, it's less travel time, but it's definitely more work. So some tips and tricks that Adam, why don't you share some fun stuff?
Oh, that's a tall task. But I just want to kind of piggyback on what Keith was saying there. Following up, it can be as simple as adding on LinkedIn if you want to do the step one, a little bit of a base, like, hey, I want to build my LinkedIn profile so there's more people talking to me. But if you do go above and beyond and send that email, you're part of the 1% of people. And if you do really want to be seen as a professional, you have to be out there. You have to push yourself out there. It's not easy, but I mean, like, I feel like when I was in your guys' shoes, I heard that 100 times, like, oh, make sure to send an email. I never did it. I really never did it until I needed to get a job, and I regret it. I just, that 30 seconds of feeling a little bashful about sending an email, it's just worth it to get yourself out there and start on your professional journey. So I do think it's awkward. Get over it. Push yourself out, be uncomfortable, grow. And I just think it's really, really important, and it helps you grow. Tips and tricks. Know yourself, be authentic. All right. So what you got to do when you're in these situations, you've got to speak to the person. You don't want to be just another accountant. You want to be an individual. And people don't want to hire just an accountant. I feel like most of the time they want to hire someone that has accounting skills, but also is a good person to communicate with. So you do really just have to be yourself. Don't try and put yourself into a block to be a product to push out. You do want to be a person that has a product, being a professional, being an educated person. And yeah, be memorable, be uniquely you. It's okay to be awkward. I love stories. I love when somebody has some sort of story where you have something interesting to say, especially nowadays. I feel like I talk to friends, and every time I'm like, well, what's new? And everybody always says nothing's new. I'm just sitting here treading water. If you have something interesting, say it. It might be a little uncomfortable. It might not hit the room 100%, but at least you're memorable. At least you'll be remembered as like, oh, remember that guy with that funny kind of weird story? It's better than being the guy that was sitting in the corner that didn't say anything, that just was passed over and no one really remembered you. So I do really enjoy them. I think they're a great way to stand out if you're in a group environment, if you're in a virtual group environment as well, participating even a little bit. I see some people have their cameras on. I think that's really helpful. It is, it's a way that, especially if I'm presenting to you, to see people's faces, it feels like it's a more of a conversation instead of just being another virtual, just kind of blah.
Yeah, talking head.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more of a back and forth instead of just being out there. So I like having a camera on. It's all just about being yourself and getting yourself out there. So
yeah, I think there's more preparation that's involved in the virtual environment. So you can't go into a meet the firms like you did before and just say like, here's my resume. What do you want to ask me about my resume? You have to know what's on your resume. You have to have a story associated with what you want them to know now. I would say that gallery view is helpful, because if you're talking to more than one person, it's easier to see the other people because you want to be inclusive of everyone that's there. And being memorable is the hardest part. I think part of that allows you to, when you're consistent and you have these consistent stories, it's helpful, right? And it allows you to, when you share relatable stories, it shows like common backgrounds. What did you guys have in common, with the person that you're meeting with, and how are you going to be able to address that, find that? What are you going to be able to do about that? Stories are definitely, I think stories are the best, because if you can get a story within 20 to 30 seconds, I will generally have a better memory of that person from the story.
And to go off what Keith's saying is, You don't, and Keith said that it's good to build like a connection. You don't have to find a common ground to have a shared hobby or something. Just talk about yourself. Talk about things you enjoy. I've got a coworker here who loves to play jazz music. The man loves jazz music. I don't really care about jazz music, but he's just so passionate about it. You start to find yourself interested in it. So seriously, just be authentic, get yourself out there. I'd rather hear about you and your jazz music than trying to pretend, like you love the Packers, which is like my favorite NFL team. Like, we don't have to find a common ground. Talk about something you enjoy, and it's going to be more genuine, and you're going to get better, genuine connections out of it.
Yeah. And wow, I totally lost my train of thought because your Packer your Packer story is pretty meaningful. But having the I remember. So in the beginning, Dung, she mentioned about my pink shirt. So as the reason why she brings it up is generally when I'm doing these kinds of presentations, I always wear a pink shirt, and with the blue suit is what I usually always do. And for those of you that like to be prepared, you kind of have that kind of uniform in place. With this new virtual environment, I've completely had to change the way that I've done these things. So it's a little bit different. So I would say that even the dress for success, what does it mean to dress for success now? Because I've spoken to other professionals when we're doing networking, and at times it's awkward when you see someone in a suit because you're not used to that. I'm not used to that anymore. I'm used to seeing people in t-shirts and like polos. So it's you kind of have to tailor to the audiences now. So these stories are things that will help you remember and are a little more relatable. So what we're doing here is we want to make sure you guys stay connected with us. So we put our LinkedIn QR codes up here. I don't know if it's going to work. It's the first time we've done it. So if it does work, fantastic. If it doesn't, well, we tried and we put our email addresses on top here. So you guys have the opportunity to be able to grab our email addresses. Priscilla Sam is our campus recruiter, so that's why she's on here too. Generally speaking, any kind of questions about what opportunities are available, she's the best point of contact there. And for me on LinkedIn, as long as the person has a profile picture and I can see that they're from CSUN, I'm okay to add. When they don't have a profile picture and I don't remember them, I may, but I would say that is kind of I go against the grain. I've said this to everyone that I've spoken with. I think with the virtual environment, it has changed. You don't have to ask the professionals anymore, can I add you on LinkedIn? Because everyone is in a virtual environment. So you'll find that people are adding each other regardless if they know each other or not. What you're looking for is meaningful connections to be able to help you. So what questions can we answer? I think we have a couple minutes, maybe two.
I have a question. So you say we should do the consistent communication, but would some professionals feel a little bit overwhelmed with people connecting and asking questions, and how does that work?
So I would say that you want to find the right connections. You won't know until you try it. So I don't think that should be a barrier for you not to do it. I think, how consistent are you, right? If you're sending an email every day, that's probably a little much, right? If you're sending it every year, that's probably too little. So I would say it's somewhere between, a couple weeks and less than a year. Generally, I would recommend November, December, right? From this point, November, December is probably around the right time, right?
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And it's better to put yourself out there than if you're worried about somebody feeling offended or feeling overwhelmed that you emailed them. You got to change your mindset. You got to be willing to push yourself out there. And if they don't like it, they don't respond, and you move on, because you just miss all the shots you don't take. So that's something that you just have to be willing to maybe have an uncomfortable situation where you're maybe stepping on somebody's toes, and move past it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hi. I was wondering about your guys' externships. Is there a specific time that you do those at, or how often, and what would be the best way to go about? Would it be best to talk to Priscilla about that?
Absolutely, Priscilla is the right person. Generally, it's held once a year, which is usually in July.
Okay.
We hope it's in person this year. This last time we did a virtual one. Virtual ones are not as meaningful for us because the intensity of the networking is different, and I don't feel like you get to experience it as much. So it's,
Mhm.
I'm hoping it's in person. But July, and Priscilla is the right person to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem, Caitlin.
Hi. I was wondering, you mentioned in Meet the Firms about exchanging of resumes, but I was a little concerned because my resume as of right now is pretty bare bones, and I was wondering if you could give me any tips on helping fill it up.
So I would say that it depends on who you're speaking with. A campus recruiter will look at your resume in detail. They will look very critically at it. Now, someone in my role, in my position, that's the secondary thing that I look at. I don't look at the resume unless it's something that you bring to my attention. There are certain things that must be on the resume, as in, do you have above a 3.0 GPA? That's a non-starter if you don't, okay?
Mhm.
But for me, I like to talk to the person and find out about the person first. Now, when you go below, right, when you talk to staff, sometimes they'll look at the resume a little more critically because they remember what it was like for them. So that may be a barrier to entry, but most of us recognize that you don't have a lot of experience right now. Adam and I were, Adam was sharing a story about his brother who needs 2 years of experience in a field that just started. So, it's not like, as long as you meet some of the characteristics that we identify as being a positive, person within a team, I think that's going to be more important.
Okay,
And
thank you.
beef it up at whatever you think you're doing. Beef it up, make it look prettier. Just kind of, for example, I used to one summer I worked at a lumber yard and drove a forklift all summer. Awesome job, loved it. But like I said, I managed customer receipts, presenting them with the final product, which is basically like I put together a lumberyard load. So just kind of fake it till you make it. Like beef it up, make it look pretty, and then ask somebody to read it over. Like you do something important is to not have a bunch of white space. So just add a couple other bullet points, and if there's too cheesy, hopefully the person that's reviewing says like, you got to cut that one. That's too far. But just beef it up. You're faking it till you make it, especially when you don't have a whole lot to build on that resume.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add briefly is that to Adam's point, you do want other people to look at your resume because I don't look at resumes. I look at the person as long as they meet the because we do something called psychometrics. So it's statistical modeling to identify the best people for a role and position, right? So it's a little bit different for us. So we don't necessarily need to look at a resume because we're looking for characteristics, but other firms will look at it specifically. So you want to talk to, Stuart or your mentor, your advisor, to be able to identify, well, what should be on the resume, as to Adam's point, because some things that you do on a daily basis for work or extracurricular are actually quite meaningful because you're actually doing something that translates very well to the profession.